What is there to know about you or your organization on the dark web? Do you want to find out? Well, thanks for tuning in because that's the subject of today. My name is Lieuwe Jan Koning and here from the Security Operations Center floor at headquarters at Onto It, we bring you Threat Talks. And the subject of today is the dark web. Let's get on to it.
Welcome to Threat Talks. Let's delve deep into the dynamic world of cybersecurity.
Let me start by introducing our guest of today. His name is Michele Campobasso, and he is recently graduated as a researcher at the Technical University of Eindhoven. And he played a role, he helped Europol in taking down the Genesis market in their operations called Cookie Monster. So he knows a thing or two about infiltrating in this community and what's there for sale. So yeah, let's learn about this and see why we need it, or maybe we need to also participate. Well, we'll find out today. Michele, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
If I want credentials on a system or on a corporate system or access to a corporate system, how much would that cost me?
Well, depending on how lucky you are, it can be as cheap as $10 with all the systems and programs you need to do that, the infiltration. Yeah.
Just $10. Okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
Now I definitely want to know all about this. We talked about dark web. Huh? Maybe it's good to define what we mean by that. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, indeed. So generally when we talk about dark web, we have a little bit of a vague idea what it is, but it's a place where there are many websites, mostly communities, and we're talking about forum underground communities, where people gather, have a chat about, instead of talking about legal stuff, they talk about cybercriminal products, for example. They have places where they can trade things, and you can go there and buy something from there. You can buy malware, you can buy credit cards, and a whole lot of other products that we can talk about. Yeah.
Is it like an online version of the RSA conference where all the vendors are and all the customers are, but this time for the hackers?
Yes. You can think also, sometimes you can find something that looks like an eBay kind of website, or Amazon, literally marketplaces that look like really, really similar to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a deep dive next week on this and how you actually get on there. You'll do that with Rob, and we'll learn all about if you actually want to be there yourself and go there. You'll learn from you next week then. But and it's big. I mean, it's an estimated $1.3 billion turnover. I mean, it's hard to estimate, I guess, how much money is made in this market, but it's a relevant market.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I learned that there's 500,000 regular users on those markets there that go there. So that's also a lot of people. So it's really relevant.
Yeah. There are definitely.
Apparently, there is an economy. Can you hidden right? Why did that happen? Does it exist?
Well, if you think about it, it's just a matter of supply and demand. So there is demand for products, like for legitimate products or not legitimate products, like drugs, for example. There is also demand for hacking related products. So there are people that are interested in having easy gains from illicit activities. But there are also way more inoffensive things that one can think of. For example, if you are a teenager and you're losing a game on League of Legends, you may want to have some DDoS as a service. You may want to have some booted services to disrupt the game you're losing, so you don't lose your elo, you don't fall down the ranking that you are. And those are, for example, the first people that start to learn how to do some hacking. So there is a combination of things here. There is both the opportunity of having easy gains, but also it is cool in a way to do hacking. The line when you do something legal and illegal can be very subtle. But yeah,
so that's how it starts. But then if I want to ransom an organization, for example, apparently there's lots I can buy off the shelf. I also don't need to, as in the defense department, where we as in the cyber industry, most of us are. We can buy a endpoint protection solution, for example. We don't have to write it ourselves. Is
Absolutely.
it similar in these markets that you buy your credential?
Yeah, absolutely. It's precisely like that, because You have to see that the demand has been out there for a while, and the economy behind cybercrime is becoming more and more mature over time. And they are understanding that there are people that don't have necessarily the technical capabilities to create products, sophisticated products, or just things that work for the purpose, and they want to rely on other providers. And in these days, it's been 10 years now that we're witnessing cybercrime as a service, which is a model of selling things that are no longer the product, but the service per se. You buy subscriptions to things, even for malware.
Do you have a couple of examples of that? What can I buy?
Yeah, you can buy, as I was saying, you can buy malware on a subscription basis. So instead of buying, I don't know, the latest malware for the full price of it, you buy just a subscription to it for, I don't know, $250 per month. You can buy hosting that is supposedly hard to take down if you want to do some criminal operations and you need a C2 server that doesn't take down that easily. You can rent some servers from someone.
So it's
that
like
is
AWS for hackers, and AWS you cannot use for malicious stuff, but there's plenty of
And that their abuse at whatever hostingprovider.com email is completely dumps everything into the spam. So if they receive any complaints, they're gonna just disregard them because they know that they are safe there.
Yeah. So tooling that allows me to do my job and make it easier. It's also very complicated, right? I mean, if you do an APT or like a ransomware, there's so many steps you need to take as a hacker. It's so much work. You cannot do this as one person, right? So this is the place where they all in an economy collaborate, and there's a whole chain of
And that's super nice. You can combine pieces together. You may just specialize in one single segment. You do your added value in there, but then you buy all the rest you need, all the heavy lifting things of dealing with infrastructure, for example. You can buy that. You can outsource that.
So this is SaaS services and eBay kind of stuff. But there's also, you told me there's also other kinds of like more gray area markets. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when you think that you can buy services that allow you to do offensive operations, so let's remove the criminal word for now, but offensive operations, there are even companies with VAT numbers that offer those services. A very famous case was when we were talking about the NSO Group, that is a company that provides espionage services for countries. Ideally, those services are used for keeping national security, counterterrorism, but there have been allegations and some evidence as well that some of those companies are providing those services even to rogue states that prosecute human rights defenders, activists, journalists. So it is a little bit of a shady area where there are offensive capabilities being offered with the receipt. You get a receipt for that, and it's a little bit unclear to what extent they are being used, if they're used for the exact purpose they have been
So
produced for.
they are more in the regular realm of companies. So you don't need a special dark web browser, Tor browser for it to access them. Probably you can simply go. Well, they probably don't offer their services publicly, but you can at least they have an offset.
You buy
and all
tax.
that.
You pay taxes on top of this.
Pegasus is something that most people know about. Is that one? Is that an example?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Which is the malware where without you knowing, it would be sent an SMS or a WhatsApp message, and it would simply infect your phone. You couldn't see it. It's even hard to detect that it ever was there. I mean, it's really sophisticated one, huh?
Yeah. This is the top end of the product. On top of that, maybe you have nation states that are sponsoring APTs, but they are pretty much on the same level of sophistication. Those guys, literally, their business model is to make the latest malware possible that works on the latest OS on your iPhone or Android device. Yeah.
There's also a lot of speak about the Telegram network, the WhatsApp, the iMessage, or whatever. Well, of Russia is maybe not the right wording, but it's at least but there's lots more to tell about that. Also, I think it's not just a messaging app. How does that work?
No,
you would consider that also to be part of that gray market, isn't it?
To some extent, yes. There are both the black markets, the more traditional ones where you can buy drugs, credit cards, and all the other stuff that we mentioned about before. But you can find also something that is more on a grayer area, because if you think, so there was a case when there was the Navalny attempted murder. Basically, that there is an investigative journalism news outlet that found evidence on the involvement of the FSB from Russia in the attempted murder, and they managed to obtain this information by using services from Telegram to, for example, see, okay, this license plate to which car is linked, to which owner is linked, where has been.
How is that on a messaging app?
Yeah, you find bots. You find bots basically.
Mm-hmm.
And first you have to recharge your balance there. You send money. You can wire this money. You can use some payment gateway. So nothing really shady. It's just something very legitimate you can do. And you just type down the license plate, and it will give you all the information available. Where was the car parked? Where was it seen from surveillance cameras?
But is that because people are offering that kind of information on this network?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just searches in groups that are apparently not private.
Some of them are not private. Some of them are just bots, are just channels. You can go there and you have a private conversation with this bot. You go there and you say, I want to know everything about a person that has this passport ID, for example, and you would gather a lot of information.
But where does it get that from then? Someone must have put it on Telegram network then.
That part I don't know. But I think that is fair to assume that there are some people that are working on those institutions that are leaking this information to someone. Upfront payment, of course. They're not doing it for free.
So there's people on that network that will actually tell you about this. It's a get-together, like indeed, and again, like a secret community where you can communicate.
I think so. There are no strong evidence. There are no strong evidence, but
that's the whole point of this whole network, that the evidence doesn't exist. Huh?
Yeah.
So and you can also buy accounts, and you said identity documents, and obviously then many people don't realize that little pieces of information stacked together will paint the whole picture, where you live, where you were, at what point of time, whether how many families you have. Some people have two, and you don't want to get that out. Those kind of things. Do you actually get that from those networks? So that kind of data that we're talking about.
Some of that information, yes, and this is generally information that has been leaked under some other attacks. And if you can buy from those marketplaces the illicit way, it implies that there was a breach and something bad happened. There are some jurisdictions where this information is way easier to obtain. I was mentioning the example of the Russian citizens, but also U.S. citizens, for example. They are it's very easy to find information about U.S. citizens. If you go online and you want to find information about names and name, you will find staggering amount of information. There are many websites that some are less legitimate than others, but even for you without a registration, I mean, you just pay, I don't know, $5 for a search request, and you will find all the previous addresses or their family, maybe even the social security numbers. It is insane. You can find even if they were they had any problems with their driving license, if they were got fines. It is really, really bad. We in Europe, we are safer in that regard.
How come?
Because it's just a matter of policies. It is a matter of how much information is collected, how it is stored, and how privacy laws work there. In that regard, also
another difference between EU and America is that, I mean, in the United States, security leads to privacy, and here in Europe it's more like aspect. Yeah, and here the idea is, hey, if we don't need to share information, why would be? It's more of a least privilege on data.
Yes, that's true. Approach. That's true, indeed.
And that pays off in your experience then.
Yeah, you can find those things also in payment systems, for example. So whenever you go on your banking online, we in Europe are mandated from more than 5 years to use strong authentication on when we log in. So you have your second factor that is enabled by default to authorize you to access your bank account, to access to your to send a wire transfer and stuff like that. Whereas in the States is not like that. I don't know if anything changed like in the last 6 months. I doubt. I haven't heard anything about that. But last time I checked, it was like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you're saying is right here in Europe, you cannot have a bank if you do not have strong authentication. By strong authentication, you mean multi-factor, huh? Not strong passwords. Like
Yeah,
complex ones.
that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So well, you did your research, for example, on the Genesis market, right? What did you learn about what attackers value? I mean, attackers, since there's an economy, you can actually see by the price of stuff what is apparently useful information.
Yeah.
What did you find out there?
So maybe unsurprisingly, the products you can buy from Genesis Market, they were the more pricey ones were those that contained credentials for financial institutions, cryptocurrency exchanges, to some extent also e-commerce websites, which confirms the idea that attackers are financially motivated, at least the majority of them, okay? Of course, there are APTs, of course, there are politically motivated actors, but the wide majority of cybercriminals are financially motivated.
Is it also your advice to CISOs that this is the main threat actor that we should care about? If we do our threat modeling, we should focus first and foremost on the financial motivated attackers?
Yes.
Unless maybe you're in the military and all that I get that, but if you are...
So the point is depends. You have to think that the prime example of a financially motivated actor that covers all sectors are ransomware gangs. They do that because they want to get a ransom. They want to get money. Okay. Apart from that, when you do your threat model, you should understand a little bit what are the other financial gains that an attacker could get. More sophisticated attackers might not be as determined to have money or little money. Maybe they want to steal industrial secrets, for example. That may be even something that is being sponsored from a nation state. But overall, you have to think, what is the use for an attacker to do that? Of course, there are script kiddies, but those are just someone that is trying to have fun and do their one-on-one hacking thing, and they are not going to be your biggest threat. But you should take into account.
You're not going to get a lot of downtime or loss of money on that, you mean? Yeah.
No, exactly. But you have to remember that they can access with a few tens of dollars. They can access to multiple offensive tools from underground communities.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the introduction. You got to explain it a little bit. So what do we actually get for $10 then? I mean, is that we have like a username and a password, and then what?
Well, so if you go for credit cards, you can get for sure you can get 10 credit cards. I mean, there are credit cards that are as cheap as $1 each. Some accounts for PayPal, for example, that allow you maybe to do a little bit of money laundering.
How do you get past the MFA then?
Well, depends. So if there is MFA, it is not easy to do.
Yeah, okay, but what you're saying is for $10, I can get credentials like a URL to log into PayPal.
So that was the case
to corporate account.
Yeah, but that was the case. That was the case for Genesis Market. You're right. I can tell something about that. So with Genesis Market, the thing that those guys were selling was to sell those bundles of stolen information, stolen from a browser of a victim that contained then credentials, cookies, metadata of a browser, and basically this information was enough to bypass a sort of multi-factor authentication. It's the multi-factor authentication that triggers when you log in on Google for the first
We
time
recently did
on a new
a deep
device.
dive on this subject, where you need like a live session with a website, and if you know if you mimic that session, then you already passed. The user is already passed MFA, and that you can buy for $10, and then. Yeah, we had the Dutch government got hacked, for example. Well, we don't know the full details about it, but apparently this is the kind of information that you would get. And indeed, for a while, you can then own the mailbox of a person, for example, for $10.
And not only the mailbox, all the credentials you have saved, all the cookies that are still valid, you can use them. And that is really troublesome. Because if you think about, especially now in the post-COVID area where we worked a lot from remote, way more than we used from them before, people started to use even their personal devices for their work devices for personal needs. And doing these kind of things is very likely that you will open like something you're not supposed to open, okay? And when you can find when a malware steals all this information from you and you save the credentials or to access your corporate systems, it is really easy to get your hands on them. And we learned in that market that the most expensive stuff is the one that contains credentials to banks and stuff like that. A corporate system is a question mark. They don't know how much is it worth it. So it counterintuitively, corporate access is profiles containing corporate access information are more likely to be expensive if there is anything there at all. But if there is something, it is not said that there is going to be more expensive.
And can you speak to anything about, is there a difference in an account that is from Belgium or from Canada or from Mexico or Russia? Is there a difference in that, in value of that?
Yeah. So immediately about Russia, you don't find any. That was a Russian marketplace, and is a well-built habit for Russian cybercriminals not to target Russia and any of the countries that are under the influence of Russia, just to not to
those
to be
accounts
on.
Are not available. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, you don't find any. They're filtered, geographically filtered. Geographically or by some the layout of the keyboard. The malware, when the malware arrives on your system, tries to understand where it is. So if it understands that it is on a Russian system, the malware shuts down and says, "Okay, bye. Not targeting here. I don't want to get anyone angry." Whereas
that seems to suggest that those markets are created by that part of the world then. Predominantly or dominated by them. The data is collected by them.
Yeah, some of those markets are, and they don't have any problems in stating it.
And then
many of those markets are Russian speaking.
Yeah, okay. And then by the price of what is available, we can actually figure out what countries they're most after.
Yeah,
right?
we can
expensive
see also
credentials apparently in higher demand or not as much available. So how much? What's the top country in price wise where you can get a bank? So is an account on a US bank more expensive than one in Brazil, for example?
Big time. So there is a strong correlation between the expected value of a profile, and the expected value is linked to the per capita GDP of a given country. So profiles originating from North America are more expensive because it's a first world country. There is something also in Europe. Northern Europe is especially more expensive on average. There is a strong link also to what I said before, what are the credentials in there. So if there are banking accounts or credentials for cryptocurrency exchanges, those are very likely to be more expensive. But we saw also that there was a particular keen interest from attackers in profiles originating from North America. And that seems to be, we speculated a little bit about that, but it seems to be related to what we were saying before about the fact that they don't have strong authentication on financial institutions. So there it's very easy to log in on your bank account.
So they're more
you just need to provide. Yeah. And we in Europe have more effective countermeasures to avoid this kind of attacks. Whereas in the US, it is not the case. But even if you think about going and paying with your credit card somewhere, if you ever went to the US, you will find that you still have the ability to swipe the card with a magnetic strip. I have a debit card from 15 years. I've never done it. Never, ever done it. In the US last year, it was the first time for me. I was like, what? So there is a parallel in that. There is a parallel. People, it seems that in the US, they privilege usability than to privacy and security, at least in this.
And for clarity, the whole point is that the magnetic strip is so much easier to copy than a chip.
That's right.
So that's why
yes, absolutely.
it's like a password versus MFA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, those are very interesting economics. In a minute, I'm going to ask you what we should learn from this. What can we do? Should we actually go dig ourselves in the dark web? But before we do that, we first have a treasure hunt, as you are used to. You can win a T-shirt with a nice layout of the Threat Talks, and well, all you need to do is mail the following code to code@threat-talks.com. And the code is 748251. It's also in the screen if you're looking at the video feed of this podcast. So enjoy your T-shirt. So, like I said, I'm really interested in obviously there's a lot of stuff out there and rather cheap actually. So it is something to monitor maybe. So maybe it's useful to figure out what is actually about me or about my company on the dark web. Mm-hmm. However, you spend a considerable amount of time figuring stuff out, right? It's not as easy. Is it difficult? What did you say? Not to you maybe, but for an average company?
Yeah, I think that is very resource intensive as an activity. So for me, that I very vertical view on a specific market, it required me many years, 4 or 5 years.
Many years.
Yes.
You said that, huh? Many years.
Years. Okay. Yeah, because infiltration. So there are many steps involved. There is the infiltration side of things. You have to pose as someone that looks legitimate. Understanding the dynamics of what's happening in there. So the fact that you can find something in a market doesn't mean that it is actually of any value. There are many people that are going to fake products, are going to scam each other. And it is unfortunately the majority of it, which makes it for a threat analyst or a company that wants to look for this kind of phenomena, very hard to tell apart what is the stuff that one should care about and the other stuff that we shouldn't care about. And the latter is the majority of it.
Mm-hmm. So there's two hard things that I hear, if I hear correctly. Mm-hmm. One is first they need to want to sell to you because they won't sell to anybody. So you need to have like some street cred, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that takes time. Yeah. And the second one is you'll get it's like a regular email box. You'll get a lot of emails that are of no use to you, if I put it politely.
No,
right, and that's the other problem. Yeah. And that's why you say it took me years. To get something useful.
Yeah, because in filtering out all the spam, as going through your analogy, filtering through all the spam, it requires a lot of time. You have to develop some sort of a fifth sense for what is interesting, or doing something more systematic, like we did, to understand what are the places that are worth monitoring. But it definitely requires time and effort. And headaches.
So suppose I am with a bank, or a CISO of a bank, let's say bank.com. Does it make sense for me to, first of all, listen to next week's Threat Talk and learn out how to get to that dark web? And then simply make an account, maybe as myself, and then try to buy accounts from my own company. So then at least I know. So just search for bank.com everywhere there. Is that a thing? Is it like low-hanging fruit, something starting point? Or do you say, listen, Lieuwe, this is no?
No, I definitely advise against doing that. Even though bank.com might have a lot of money to invest on it, I would leave it to professionals. Because as I was saying before, there are many steps that you need to take in account before making any meaningful sense of what you're seeing there. Okay, it requires time to understand what really matters, to create identities that are believable to some extent. You have to cultivate also a little network of people that somewhat trust you. It doesn't mean that you have to be friends or sending Christmas gifts to each other, but at least there are people that you can chat with because for a reason or another trust you a little bit. Also, the fruit you manage to obtain.
Does this need to happen for every? So if I am a company, I want it, and I hire a company to do this, like a service. Does that company have to infiltrate in those communities specifically with the goal for that particular company to do, or is it? I mean, could you hire someone that already has all of that, and you just say, "Hey, now I'm a new customer, bank.com, search for me," and then that person is immediately able to do that for you, or does he have to go specifically get himself into the community? So it will also take time.
Both, because on one end, if you're providing this service, you already have a stable foothold on a large number of marketplaces. If all by a sudden you happen to have a completely different customer, it might be sensible that you want to scout a little bit more around. But in general, you want to maximize coverage, so you should be able already to do that. But looking for a name like bank.com is not easy. Many times, this is not going to yield any result to you. It is more of a manual job of investigation. You have to get in touch with someone and to know, hey, are you advertising something like that? Because there are people that advertise products and say, please get in touch with me, contact me on private, because they know that they are on a surveilled ecosystem. They know that there are security researchers. They know there are threat intelligence companies. So they don't disclose too much information. They say, get in touch.
So what you're suggesting, I think, is that the real dangerous stuff for your organization is in the old boys network of the criminals.
Yeah, very
so
likely.
You need to be in there, and that's really difficult. So it requires a professional. Okay. Is there like an entry level thing to do? I mean, there's attack surface companies that scan your IP ranges, look at who is trying to contact you, where the emails come from. Is that of any use? Is that related to this?
That is the possibility. I think that, for example, monitoring ransomware gangs, leaks, websites is something. But in general, you happen to know what happened at home before the leak is out there. There is also a good use to monitor also, mostly from my perspective, new products. You want to know what are the new trends, what are the new things that may be up there, and to improve a little bit your security posture. So not to wait too much to the end when a threat is already large scale and everyone is talking about, even the state TV is talking about it, like was with ransomware. You want to know when the thing is already on an embryonal stage, on a very early stage. That really helps, I think, to improve your security posture. And that from professionals that can monitor this information, provide actionable information to their customers, I think is of a big value.
What tangible thing would you advise a CISO to do tomorrow? I mean, our viewers are listening to you right now. What would you say go do tomorrow to benefit from what is out there on the dark web?
I would definitely get in touch with a company that is able to provide you with services that monitor also underground communities, including Telegram and Discord. I would also, I don't know how does it work, especially because I'm more of an academic guy than an industry guy at the moment. But I would also try to make sure that who's providing me with this service is very well aware that the fact that my name can pop up on somewhere means anything. Because one thing that actually CISOs could do, I think, is that you have really to understand why should an attacker care about you. Because the fact that you are out there doesn't mean that you're going to be attacked. Because if your systems, if your company has little to no value to an attacker, very likely nothing is going to happen. And how can be that possible? Well, if you know that you don't deal with industrial secrets, if you know that at best the things that a ransomware operator can get from you are, I don't know, your systems that deal with access of people in the company, but there is no secrets, no secretive information or operational information that can get lost. You're safe. You know that your disaster recovery plan works as intended. Then you don't have to worry too much about.
Well, that's a big
this
if.
kind of
We've seen a lot of companies
Yeah.
who do not have their disaster recovery in order. So practice that then, I would say.
Yeah,
At least.
do your risk your risk assessment, do your risk modeling, understand.
Should you as a company then advertise, hey, listen, in case you ransom us, we have a really good recovery system that we're not going to tell you the details about, but we tested it and it was okay. Should I put that on my website? Would that help? No, but seriously, is that something that an attacker you think takes into consideration?
It could be the case. I don't know. I think
we
that
already see that ransom these days is not to get your data back, but to prevent it from leaking.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that attackers are opportunistic by nature. So they try, no matter what is written there, they don't care. They probably will never see your homepage. Okay, they have their own automated pipeline to do port scans and trying all known exploits possible on Earth. I don't think that really would make a big difference, honestly. It doesn't hurt to try, honestly, as a deterrence, but I don't think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, so then what you do is figure out where your value is, make sure that that's properly protected, and whether they get credentials or not, it shouldn't matter then.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. Well, that's a great conclusion of this talk, I would say. Thank you very much, Michele. Very insightful. I'm sure I encourage everybody to look at to tune into the deep dive next time to see more, and especially if you are on the nerdy side of the cybersecurity spectrum.
Looking forward to it.
That's to tell, and we'll put in the show notes all kinds of things, like the article that you mentioned, where data from Telegram is harvested, and also. Your thesis probably will provide the link because there's a lot of cool stuff to figure out there as well. Thank you so much. To our viewers, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you liked this episode. If that was the case, please do us a pleasure and like this podcast video and also subscribe to it, because that makes sure that next time this deep dive will automatically be in the inbox of your favorite app. And with that, thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Threat Talks, a podcast by Onto It Cybersecurity and AMS-IX. Did you like what you heard? Do you want to learn more? Follow Threat Talks to stay up to date on the topic of cybersecurity.